Welcome to this episode of Meet the Artist at Framethrower. My name is Ben Kusal, and in this episode I'll be speaking with Jason Snyman. Jason is quite the animation prodigy, and I'm not using this term lightly. He really is both technically and artistically in a league of his own, or there's not a lot like him for sure. Jason has worked at some of the biggest studios on some of the biggest projects, including Return of the King, The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, King Kong, Godzilla, the Harry Potter franchise, Game of Thrones Season 7 and 8, and many, many more. He's currently head of technical animation and animation director at Steamroller Studios, and I had an enlightening conversation with Jason. He really is a very inspiring and creative force of nature, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it as well. Also, if you're an animator looking for feedback, or if you're looking to give feedback to others, both or tips and tricks or good ideas, come check out Framethrower.io. We have great vibes, great artists, and customized feedback tools all available at Framethrower.io. And now here's Jason Snyman.
On your adventure as your like flesh and like the stuff here, like the person I was back when I started is like a totally different person to what I am now.
Yeah,
I've grown up a lot.
of course.
But during the whole thing, it's like there's just been the animation that's got me to like travel the world and meet new friends, and it's always been there because I started doing it when I was 13. So it's kind of been the one constant in my life, and then it's just taking me everywhere and all these experiences that I didn't think was possible. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It takes, but it gives.
We were texting a bit back and forth before this, and you talked about how you had an untraditional start, and I didn't want to ask you too much because I didn't want to ruin it, and I wanted you to explain it here. But you dropped out of college at 17, and then you pursued just 3D, or?
No. Are you recording now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
No, I dropped out of college. Pretty young, and we immigrated to the UK. And I was like, go to school in the UK or find a job. And I already been like playing around with 3D since I was 13. So I've been using Power Animator and like the first versions of Maya that came out. So I've been like immersed in 3D for a long time before I could even get hired. It's just like it was like a hobby, and I was like, I can make stuff in the computer. I had no idea. It was like by chance I even like happened to like stumble on the fact that this kind of technology existed. Because I like playing video games, right? Everyone was playing video games, and I was addicted to Mario on one of these little Nintendo things when I was a kid. It's like just jumping around. And then Nintendo 64 came out, and then Mario all of a sudden was like moving around in 3 dimensions. It's like,
Yeah.
this Nintendo 64 is cool. And in Africa, they didn't have any Nintendo 64, so it was like very rare to find one. And I remember seeing in this video game magazine that they used SGI chips inside of this thing, and this was the same kind of technology that they used to make the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. And I was like, that's cool. What? And I started connecting the dots, and there was, I was like, well, the Silicon Graphics, maybe they're in the phone book. Look, and there's a Silicon Graphics in Africa. I phoned them up, and I'm like, hey, can I have a look? And I'm interested in this kind of stuff. They said, sure, just come on by. I get there, and they have a Nintendo 64 like in a glass case. I'm like, oh, I can play it. This is gonna be great. So anyway, the graphics stuff, and it's like, oh, graphics, yeah. You probably want to go upstairs to the visual guys, the graphics guys. I was like, no, but the Nintendo 64 is here. And then they ushered me up, and then they showed me this alias ray from like showreel, and it was like Bad Religion playing, and the dinosaurs are squishing down on cars. And I'm like, what? You guys can do this with this technology? Of course, it's like a giant multi-million-dollar, like it looks like a fridge. It's like a supercomputer that's running the Power Animator.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, they do it on this, and there was some guy sitting there doing. Like he was modeling a sports car, and this thing was like moving around with wireframe. And of course, back in the day, it's like it moves in wireframe, and then when it stops, it then visualizes in
Nice.
view. I was like, what? This is like the coolest thing I've seen. And they said, well, no one really uses these computers during the day, like, or ever. You can like come and play with them whenever you want. Here's the manuals, which are like a stack of manuals. So that was my childhood, just going there after school and playing around and
That's amazing.
just trying this stuff out.
So were you, and so this was in South Africa,
Yeah.
and you were what, like 13?
13, yes. Yeah, a little punk kid. I had hair back then, ponytail.
Nice. And did you was it animation in gen that you were specifically interested in, or was it just anything?
I like the idea of how things worked in films. Like I kind of knew like films aren't magic, and there's a whole bunch of people that make them.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was lucky enough to be living next door to the son of a really famous prosthetics guy, like an actual like real like prosthetics, and, limbs and swords that retract into the sheath and all that real stuff, like swibs for like explosions and blood and all that kind of stuff. So I got a tour of his workshop, and they had crocodiles from Crocodile Dundee and all this stuff just around. And it kind of gave me insight to, that there are these tricks and, behind the scenes aspects to, commercials and TV shows and films. And I just kind of fell into the 3D side because I just really wanted to play Super Mario. I just want to play N64 Mario 64. And I kind of got addicted to, learning all about 3D, like like modeling and then going to texturing and then lighting. And this was like, I was doing lighting and stuff and modeling before like real-time GI or, caustics or any of that kind of stuff. You're just using a bajillion spotlights to kind of fake ambient occlusion. So.
Yeah.
But I was always into it. And then when we immigrated to the UK, I had a huge, vast knowledge of this stuff, but I didn't really have a showreel because I was at school. I had a few things saved on the DAT drive, the DAT tape, which is like non-existent technology. Yeah, I could like opening that now. But then I got hold of the same kind of company that would have that machine sitting there that no one would be using, and they had the same company in the UK, and I just kind of phoned them up, and they said, "Yeah, come have a look." And I showed them some stuff, and like, "Ooh, would you like to go and do some like demos at roadshows and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." It's like, "Well, use the machine. There's some licenses. There's like a dongle, and I just play with Maya." And then they asked us how open am I to just like learn software, and then I can go to a company and demo it to see if they want to purchase it. And I was at the time kind of really interested in photogrammetry, like the Matrix just came out. And how they did the bullet time, they used photographs to reconstruct. I was like, that's cool. And like how match move, you can marry like any kind of animated object or something synthetic with real. And I was like, this is cool. This is something I could be interested in. And I learned this match move software that was kind of photogrammetry built in called RealViz. And they're like, all right, can you go show these guys MILF film in Shepperton Studios? And for me, I was living like 3 hours away. I was like, yeah, sure. It's like just one-time thing. I get there, show them. I'm like in Shepperton Studios, and it's like this film sets, and there's like props being carried around. I was like, this is crazy. I was 17.
Yeah.
And I get there, and then they see me doing some stuff, and this was like doing some tests on Pluto Nash. Like they did some, I guess, like they filmed a trench and they just ended up put some CG stuff in it. And I showed them like, oh yeah, you just push these buttons, and then they said, "Do you want a job?" This is a trick question. I phoned the guy up, Nigel, up in England. I'm like, hey, they want to offer me a job, and he's like, "You take it. It's MILF Film. They did Gladiator. You take this job."
Oh,
but it's 3 hours from where I live. It's like, "You take the job." Okay. Sure, I could start on Monday. And that was like my first job, period, out of school was doing film. And then, I learned 3D Studio Max on the job, a little bit of Lightwave, and then I just kind of stayed with that company, until we moved to London because the Shepperton branch closed down, and then we all moved to London, worked on Harry Potter's and stuff there.
And that was still with Milfilm?
Still with Milfilm, and then met a whole bunch of people I still know now. Matt Welford, he was at Milfilm, and
Nice.
Yeah, it was a crazy adventure. And then I kind of, by mistake, got into animation because when you get to the biggest studio in central London, then you have all the other departments. You have like animation, rigging.
Yeah.
And they're working on, I think, Tomb Raider at the time, and they had all these like rock creatures running around. And I got hold of the rig. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try it. And I'm like doing stuff. And then I got Richie Bainham, and I'm like, hey, you want to have a look? And he's like, yeah, let's have a look. And he's telling me about like weight and everything. So having access to those, talented animators right there was, I guess, like my kind of intro into anime.
Yeah. So that's so early because it's like, so you're like 18 at the time or something, and you're still figuring out hormones and your place in the universe, and then you just launch into this production with all this added pressure that most of us don't experience till our late 20s, maybe.
Yeah, like, I don't know about that. It's just like I get to work early and I get free orange juice. That's
so yeah, but how because something that I sometimes struggle with was the the feedback and there's like some nerves around that but I was still, like I said, I was still an adult, right? You're still just you're young. Yeah. How were you just too excited about the whole thing to even bother, or how?
I think it was weird because I got like a soft intro into the industry. I wasn't like straight into animation right out the gate. I was more of like do the match move, and then I modeled some stuff, and then I did some previs, and like I felt like more protected because I was kind of like in smaller teams. Just kind of getting used to the whole process. Like on K19, I did previs, and then we'd send out cameras to get shot on stage, and then we'd get the match moved back and try to line it up with our cameras again, and we put the environment in. We did some environment stuff, and then we would render that stuff out and watch it actually on film. So it would be like goes by once, twice, 3, 4. Okay, did you see anything? Okay, that's good, right? But I never got into the the animation feedback loop until I got to Weta. I was hired on as a texture artist. I've done texturing before and used Studio Paint and applied, and they're like, yeah, you're hired. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to New Zealand. I was, I think, just turning 19. I get there. This is like the first time away from home. Like I'm just like, bye everyone. I have to like find a place to rent and open a bank account and do laundry and shopping, and as well as like work on a big film.
Yeah. Do you remember the first? Sorry, go. Do you remember the first project?
The first project
at Weta.
At Weta. So I wanted to go work on King Kong. I thought that would be cool. I like giant monkeys and stuff like that. I even modeled and rigged and put fur on my own King Kong type thing. I thought if I do an animation test, I'll get hired. And they never actually saw it. I did all this work and they never saw it. I got hired as a texture artist, and they brought me on Return of the King. I was like, but can I work on King Kong after? They're like, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I flew out there as a texture artist and worked on Shelob and putting dirt on a whole bunch of stuff. And
nice.
Met Elijah Wood. He comes by and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just putting some shit on Shelob's butt here." And he's like, "Cool." Just like a random experience. And then the texturing work kind of dried up, and they were either going to put me in Roto Prep because texture painting translates into painting stuff.
Yeah.
And I mentioned, I might be interested in trying animation. I've never done full-on animation. And they said, well, sure, do some tests. We got a whole bunch of horses that need to be murdered by these guys on elephants, like farming.
Yeah.
So I was like, that sounds fun. And then they got me in touch with a whole bunch of the animators that could give me scene files. So we had, I think it was like a whole bunch of people that are now still there that are like supervisors, heads of departments that we all kind of started at the same time, and all of a sudden I'm in animation dailies, and then my horse gets like shot in the head and then it falls down, and I think I put a hoof through the rider and it's like tumbling, and I was just having fun with it. I was like, this is cool, and then it's just put into like the crowd software, and then they're like, Jason, I think you might be ready for your first shot. And I was like, oh, dude, this is cool. They gave me the sequence where Gandalf is standing up against the wraith, the ring wraith, on a back of like a Nazgul, the flying thing.
Yeah.
And it basically roars at Gandalf, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I messed up from the beginning. I put up like I got this thing at Origin. Meanwhile, it's meant to be somewhere on Minister up there somewhere. So the lighter's like, there's nothing here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm roaring and I'm over animating the tongue and I'm like overthinking things everywhere. And I got Randy Cook and Richie Bainham both going to be like this. You need to make it roar like this. And I'm like, yes. I'll make it do that.
Oh, that's so good.
But I got there in the end, and then they ended up cutting that shot sequence and put it into the extended edition anyway. But
okay.
Other stuff, and then because I was in the animation department, I went into doing previs on King Kong, and I think that's where I found my groove. Because doing previs, you basically get a speed up. You have to like produce 5 shots a day, maybe more, maybe like around 5 shots a day. Yeah, and that's cameras, that's motion, that's direction, that's cinematography, lenses, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and doing the match move already, I had already an idea of like film back and focal effects and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's where I got my speed and kind of figured out animation through that way. Because I'm just throwing a puppet around as though it's like an action figure. Because like I didn't actually study animation or posing and timing, and I didn't know about the principles at all, or like who these 9 wise guys were, or any of that stuff. I just like the whole process of filmmaking, and so I'm slowly like figuring that stuff out, and then I'm flying back to London because I was to keep my British citizenship or PR. I had to make sure I was in that country for a certain amount of months. So I ended up leapfrogging between England for the time, and then back to New Zealand, and then back to England, and then back again. So I got to work on some cool projects in England as well as back in New Zealand. And I think the one show that kind of really cemented my forward progress in animation as like a full on like this is what I'm going to do is on Kong, where I had done previs, one of the first time rounds before I jumped back and forth, and I was like taking the original Harryhausen stuff and vamping it, but still keeping the essence of it, like when the dinosaurs are fighting and the jaw stuff. We want to still keep that. Yeah. And some parts where the dinosaurs, like the 3 T-Rexes, are fighting Kong, and there's this big spiraling motion. Yeah. And I was having a lot of fun with this. And then when I got back, they said, "Oh, well, since you're back, you might as well just take your previs and start, upping it." And I was like, "Okay." Put me in a room, and I'm there ready with the Kong versus T-Rex, and the fight and the initial hits. And I was like, "This is unexpected. Going to get to creature stuff right off the bat." But they just kept giving me shots, and then I just was like, "All right, the more you give me, I'll just work late. I don't care. I just know that the work I'm doing here is going to help pave the way forward for my career."
Yeah. Can I just so it was the same Kong where you started, like you figured out animation by prevising on Kong, and that's the same project. It's not a later King Kong. It's this first one.
It's
still,
the same,
right?
Yeah.
It's
the same one.
Because I saw your preparing for this. I saw your reel from 2011, and I remember watching that in cinema where he's fighting the King Kong and the T-Rex. It's like they're clashing, and he takes the jaw and all that stuff. I was just like, it's one of those, like there's like those defining moments. Was like, yeah, this is definitely what I'm gonna do. And I was new at the time, but it's like affirming that I had made the right choice to move forward, and that I can't believe that was you had just figured out animating at that point. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I guess because also I was surrounded by top-notch weta animators. I could just be like, "Hey,
yeah, of course,
Sato, can you help me with this?" Or speak to any of the animators there, and then also it's like a behind-the-scenes DVD every day where you can click on the almost like the the equivalent of shotgun. We can see the progress of a shot. You can go all the way back to the initial first block and the first thing that was ever put out, and then you can follow the shot all the way to its final state. So I think that was very insightful. Like it's like animation 101 right there.
Mm.
And I think I also just had a feel for it. I just felt like, okay, well, to make it feel like it's moving, I just move the whole thing, and then this is attached, so that should move, and then this should move because that's also attached. So I wasn't thinking of like spacing and timing and like what the pose was. I was like, this moves like this, and then everything attached should also move. And then my style kind of grew from that.
It's we're gonna get to it later, like you mentioned your style, because you have some different approaches than traditional animation, which I'll get to later. But first, how long were you at Weta for?
Jeez, on and off, maybe 6 years, maybe less, maybe more. I think that when I was there on Avatar, that was like a year. I just got my British passport. I was like, I can travel and do stuff, and for a year, and then I went on a snowboarding trip at the end of the project because I wasn't quite done with writing, and Vancouver or Whistler was on the destination list, and I was there for 2 weeks. And I had no idea this place existed. I was like, what is this future city with snow and mountains everywhere, and what is this industry here? Okay, hook me up. That was like 10 years ago.
and that was that when you went to Image Engine there, or
MPC first? Because
that's right.
I really worked at MPC, and I thought, MPC's there. It'll probably be an easier process to go there. And I did interview with Image Engine, and they were keen. And I said, MPC is going to hire me for this much. And they're like, okay, good luck. You don't have a back and forth? I'm like, okay, sure, bye. I flew over. They set me up in the condo, like literally like down the road, and I was like experiencing Yale Town for the first time, and I started doing yoga, and I bought a Jeep. What happened? Yeah, Jeep's gone, got a Subaru now, and I haven't done yoga in years. But that was a good time. Did NPC for a bit, and worked on some big shows. Went from a small little, like one of their small little, I guess we were on like one floor. I think it was like 50 artists, 50, 60 artists. Yeah. We went to the big building that they just bought, and then after that, I supervised my first show there, Goosebumps. And then, nice. Then I went to Image Engine for another adventure, and somehow got tangled up with dragons and aliens.
Oh yeah. So your first lead experience was at MPC?
Yes, back on I think it was 10,000 BC on Narnia. Yeah. So anyway, I get back from New Zealand. I get a job at MPC. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to be in London for a while. Got a nice apartment, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And then they said, hey, so we know you just got back from New Zealand, but how would you like to go do some previs on set for this project 10,000 BC with mammoths? And it's like, don't worry, it'll be like 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Sure, why not? I pack up my stuff, and then 5 months later, I get back to London. And there's a whole team that was there, because when I got to NPC, it was like 3 people. They were just building up for the shows, and we're doing some animation tests on mammoths. And I was like, okay, cool. We're going to do Golden Compass too, and I think that fell away while I was away on location. That's just previs there, doing some animation cycles, figuring out how this mammoth can work, and then kind of became like animation lead during that, because I got all the experience dealing with the client, dealing with the director, and kind of building that relationship up as I was on set. I was right there, and of course NPC put a lot of faith in me, because I just joined the company, and all of a sudden I'm like thrown in on set and having to deal with making decisions and pushing animation in the direction. So that was cool. And then got back, and then was the creature lead on the griffins in the second Narnia. And again, we went to Prague on location with that, because we were filming the actors like in a gimbal based on our animation. So we'd be animating like actually on stage, and then that same animation gets put onto like a motion control rig and a gimbal. And, So that was fun. We were
Yeah.
like putting our stuff in After Effects, checking that what they just filmed right now is going to work. So we'd wait like 20 minutes, get the footage, quickly key it, and put it into the scenes.
So sorry, go on.
Yeah, and then go back and then just leading it and like making sure the rigs are working and getting the animation style to be up there, and then just kind of looking after those creatures.
Yeah,
I just kept on leading. It's like, okay, well, something's wrong with the rig. Who do we speak to? And I was like, Jason knows some stuff. Like he's been doing it for like forever. Like how old? 20 something. But don't worry, he knows what's up.
yeah.
And then I was like leading for a very long time because I don't think like even I was like looking back, I was like kind of immature. I was still like pretty young, and you don't really want to have your supervisor be older than everyone on the team. So.
Well,
I have to wait for the industry to kind of catch up with me, or catch up with the industry.
That's amazing. But I mean, when you have someone who knows what they're talking about, you're gonna listen if you're serious about what you're doing. So I know for some people it does, but it shouldn't really matter the age of once you start talking about the actual subject. I wanted to. Because you talked about these the Narnia project of you, so you're previous animation that will sort of drive the whatever vehicle that the actress is sitting on, whatever robotics, and we did something similar later on Game of Thrones, where it's way more complex. but was there a how much of a back and forth was there, or did you come up with an idea and then they just threw the actors on it, or did you do something based on their stuff first, or who was kind of driving that process?
It was kind of like we got initial. We were kind of like working on previs as well as like previs plus where we'd have to be animating and making sure that the animation we do would work with a certain speed that the gimbal could actually move in.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in like animating something that just can't be filmed. So we were being very precise over, all right, we only can animate at this speed with the camera versus where the characters are. We could do some stuff with focal length and everything, but be kind of a little bit contained, but still make the scenes feel dynamic and action packed.
Of course. So
we'd be working back and forth with the guys on set before the actors and before the whole crew arrived, just to kind of check that this is all working. We put it into the system, and then we do a first pass and have like a stand-in, and then kind of see what that looks like. And then everything arrives. They have catering, you have the actors, and everyone is just there ready to go. And then you sit in with your computer going like, all right, I'm just adding the last little final touches and then exporting the data. And it can be a little bit stressful, but
of course,
when you have a good team and everyone can rely on each other, then you just kind of push through. But it was fun seeing it all come together.
Yeah. Did you manage to do something that was a little bit too much for the actors? Because you're driving that thing that they're sitting on.
I heard at some point it got a little bit uncomfortable, but not as bad as what happened to Jon Snow. He apparently, like, we made our bucking bronco go a little bit crazy, and he got his nuts smashed.
Oh,
sorry. If you watch this, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good segue because I wanted to talk about the dragons too, and maybe we should just start from the beginning, because I heard when I first got hired at Image Engine for Game of Thrones season 8, I heard this rumor that you were the reason why they got it, because you did a test for the previous season or something, or how did
yeah. So they're basically kind of like shopping it around. They're getting a whole bunch of studios to do animation tests to kind of see if there's a good fit at a company, and I guess anywhere. Like they just wanted to see if you really got what the creature was all about.
Yeah.
And they gave us some scenes from the original, like from like season 6, like, hey, match this, but maybe put some of your own personality into it. And I was just like, dude, let's just let rip and just have this dragon do something crazy that we haven't seen before, like add some real animalistic qualities.
Yeah.
And I took a scene and I just progressed it through, got some like nice roaring moments, a nice push off a cliff, and it just jumps and starts soaring and flying off into the distance. And they were like, okay, this wasn't exactly what we were asking for, but we really like what you guys did with this. So yeah, how about you do another test with like dragon landing? And I did a few things, and I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I have a vacation coming up. I'm going to Croatia, so bye. So I left him with some stuff, and then Jen Taylor did some more tests for a bigger dragon that might have some creatures on it, or characters like whites and stuff on it. And I'm just the whole time while I'm in Croatia, like, did we get it? Did we get it? Did we get it? Did we get it? And yeah, always just thinking like, oh man, animating dragons is fun. Well, I hope we get it. That'll be fun. And then I get back and they say, yep, well, we got it. We got some previs. We're going to start, pre-animating this stuff so we can feed the buck, which is the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I've done some of that before. It's it's familiar.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to add, when you say whites, you're talking about the White Walkers and yeah. Well, let's just assume that people already saw it. I'm sure it's fine. And I talked to Jen. I was so lucky that she came on this as well. So the first Game of Thrones job for you guys and Image Engine was the what did you call it? It's like the Caravan for season 7.
The loot train. The spoils of war.
Oh yeah. Man, that was another one of those moments, like, because the dragon was just so much better than season 6, and it was just like
huge,
so big, and it was like a big airplane, just like just like lava everywhere and fire. Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, because I was a huge fan of the show. The first episode for me just like hit home. It's like this random world with like some sort of maybe mystic magic involved, and I was hooked. And and the fact that they start swearing and they're like, fuck this and shit there, and heads flying off. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
yeah.
And then I was always following it. I was like, oh, they're doing dragons. I'm like, I'm probably not going to work on this kind of stuff because I'm just in feature films the whole time. But then how I guess like TV budgets and film budgets are starting to get closer and closer and closer.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got to a chance to potentially work on it. I was like, let's do this. Let's get this dragons. This will be a wild ride, and if we can push the bar to the next level, then people remember it, and
yeah,
it's like being a fan of the show. I want people to really enjoy the show, and be able to carry that forward, and not let them down and keep the expectations high. That was all I was thinking about the whole time. I was like, there's gonna be millions of people watching this. I didn't know this was super cool.
But at the time, it was. I think you're right. The TV just surpassed film for a little while, and maybe it's still there, but now it's a back and forth because there's some pretty big movies coming out now, like Dune. And I think that's the next big. Oh, dude! But at the time, Game of Thrones was the kind of like the summit, and yeah. Well, you guys won a VES for it, right? And it was definitely up to par. And I know I can't be impartial with season 8, but it definitely wasn't the dragons that made it not the best season.
All that work, and then everyone remembers it badly. But like the work you guys did and the work we put forward was always like the highest quality. I'm like super proud of all of that work that we put in.
Yeah,
there was a lot of it,
dude. It was, but. So yeah, that was, and then you were supervising all of it. We at Image Engine, there was the dragons for season 8, and like when people asked me at the time, like so what do you guys animate? It's just dragons. We're just only doing dragons. Yeah, and it was amazing because the quality was high. Like when you looked around. Like people were really putting out, like, it was like a super high level. It was really awe-inspiring. Yeah.
Everyone on the team was also like, top of their game, and also huge fans of the show. So they also don't want to let down the public. They just like, I want to make this like the best it can. So it's like, the best kind of best kind of situation you could ever have, like hope for, is like everyone is super invested in the show, everyone's super invested in the work,
Yeah.
and it's dragons and animation. Why, like animation land, everyone wants to animate a dragon.
Yeah.
It's like a cool creature that you can't really find. You can find reference for, but a lot of it is like interpreted. You got to like pull on like all your experience, like going up to that point, and
Yeah.
well, I can use some of the legs from this creature and like a little bit from the crocodile here, and like how the mouths work and all that kind of stuff. But a
Yeah.
lot of it's like interpretation and what's the word, like just amalgamating just bats and eagles and just all these creatures into like one lump and hope it
Yeah.
works.
And airplanes. There was a lot of it. It was like now we wanted to feel like an airplane. It's just like just like the big. Yeah, it was so cool. And you got to do the whole Buck thing again. Buck being the mechanical bull that the actors were sitting on, and then you and was it you and Nathan Fitzgerald, or was it you did the previs for it?
There's a whole bunch of us. Yeah, we did the initial passes of like we got some stuff on third floor, which was third floor is always doing some really crazy cool stuff, and then we have to like then bring it into a world that makes sense, that has like a path and everything is non-cheated, because like in previous you just want to get the scene to look nice and cinematic. And then when we actually go into like the 3D realm, we have to make everything make sense, and there's a path and there's continuity, and then something's changed. But yeah, we'd kind of like redo it, but like animation plus or like blocking plus to get the motion right, because then that's going to go off and get fed into the motion capture and Buck, and then that's then filmed and it's locked in stone, so you can't really change the performance too much after that. So you just be like, you gotta make it look good, so that anything you do kind of informs what that Buck and that camera is going to do. And that will come back. So we kind of had an idea of what the work was going to be like at the front half before they even filmed it, and that's where the real work kind of went in, all the the pushing, the crunch time. And then when we got all that stuff back, then we just plus in the animation, and we just take the same scene files and just make it look pretty. That were like little details, but yeah, at the beginning you have to. Yeah, that was the push, is getting the stuff looking good for the shoot.
But I think, it was so cool to see it at the time, because then you get the actors, because the animation, the core of the animation was what would be driving the actors' movement, because they're sitting on this mechanical bull that was driven by your animation that we then refined. So all the actors' movement on the dragon they were so real, which made you kind of like interpret the dragon as being real as well. And they did the same thing with the fire, using the real flamethrowers, and then we would just kind of like put the dragon on top of it, and it just it was so cool. It looked awesome. One
wrong keyframe and your flamethrower is like onto the crew.
Oh that was so man, that was awesome. It's that was quite the ride. How do you feel?
Having like guys like you on the team, like animation supervisors, you're only as good as like your team, and if your team isn't like pulling together or really taking control of the shots, then your job becomes excellent, whatever. It gets harder.
A lot. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it gets way harder. But yeah, you guys just made the trip so much easier, and it was great.
Did you how? Because you had a lot of like, from where we sat, it looked like you had a lot of hats on when you were sitting there in your corner, and you were you were both pushing the show in terms of what we needed to do, like in technically, and then the animation quality, and then you also needed to give us all notes at the same time.
I don't know how to fit it all in. It's like a lot of the stuff you guys don't know about. Like I try to keep the artist like kind of sheltered from all the upper stuff where it might be a little bit stressful. But like financially, we had to make sure that the show wasn't gonna sink the company. So if we could put like CFXy type stuff into the rig, like how we can do that, because we had skin sliding on our rigs. We had all that ring membrane stuff in the rigs, or like the buffering and all that kind of stuff. So we try to, be able to do as much of the process inside of the animation department as possible, because we can just do it from animation straight out. To get sent to Weta or Allure, or whoever was rendering the stuff. And then, also, getting the rig to be, pretty quick and all these aspects. And trying to figure out the whites was like a little test, a little joke. I'm like, let's just make a whole bunch of like balloon dudes that could potentially be just hanging onto something. That was like a little fun exercise. And then all of a sudden that gets turned into a thing that we're going to do, and it got pipelined. I was like, oh man, my crazy idea is now like been implemented, and now I really hope it doesn't break. But it turned out great, like those lights hanging off.
It's amazing. It really did. That was mind blowing. No, I was just asking because I've talked to a few supervisors now. I'm trying to get into the whole thing of the mentality of leading, and like you said, like sheltering your team, because obviously if we had been told on a daily basis that we're really worried about everyone having a job next week, and it's like we were just trying to we were just trying to get our shots done. So super important. But did you have anything else that you, in terms of the team, that you were more aware of how you would meet people or how you would get feedback? Or I guess you were dealing with a pretty like everyone was fairly experienced, so I felt like everyone just took it on the chin when we got those. No, dude.
I think going into it, I kind of forced a workflow on everyone, because I know all animators have their own little workflow. But already doing season 7, figuring out a workflow to get the animation cycles and animation looking consistent. We kind of did that whole animation layers. Like we have a nice flight cycle, then you can adjust that, and then we have an anim layer of that we can override to go into like a glide, and then we build on that with offset layers. So I kind of just pushed that workflow on all of you guys. So I'm sorry, but this is the best approach, and we can keep everything looking consistent, and on the fly we can update the flight cycle that's been approved and make sure that is in all the shots. So that was kind of like more of like a training thing, just kind of like, this is the reason why I'm forcing, not really forcing, but like strongly suggesting you guys do it this way, because it's very flexible, and I know how animation can snowball as soon as you got a lot of keyframes, and then there's a lot of animators, and there's a lot of inconsistencies, and it's more of the case of like finding the excitement in the shot and just kind of nurturing it, because I always like to find, I have like an overall view of what's happening with the sequences and what the animators are working on. And I always can tell when an animator is trying to put something a little different, a little exciting in there, a little like taste of their own stuff. And I'm always trying to nurture that. I'm like, I see what you're doing there. You know how to make that like really expand out. And I'm like, I always want to let animators have that little bit of light, In some shows, you start putting a little characteristic in, and it's like, that thing that you did there, you take that out right now. And I'm like,
no, you're right. You need to, for lack of a better whatever, you need to be in love with what you're doing to make it shine. Yeah, I remember I had there was a few shots where I felt like I got off on a tangent on something, and then you realize a month later, if I had just implemented some of those cycles from the beginning, then and then there was many shots as well where I would kind of build with what we had at the show, because it's like a shortcut to getting to all the fun part of, you don't have to worry about wingtips. Because you can just make the body like really squash and stretch and get the dragon feel out of in it, and then that just came across way faster as well once you applied everything that was available to us. So I think that definitely worked. And then it was also a show where you had to do that, because it was
you gotta get through those shots.
dude, the quality needed to be so high, and we just didn't have the time to rebuild everything in each shot, like reinvent the dragon for each animator in each shot. So yeah.
And I kind of like come from the point of view where, as an animator, I kind of want to get the tools ready for the animators to use. I don't want to just be like, oh, this is the rig, go for it. I'm like, right, these are the things that we're going to get into trouble with. We need to have things in place that help this flow through the system. Always was like, okay, let's make the rig super user friendly. Like the face rig, I try to like give as much control to a point to the animators, but I don't want to give too much control where there's like a bajillion like facial like tweakers and all that kind of stuff. I kind of gave you guys like some simple blend shapes, but look really complex when they kind of move together. So you get like pretty far with the performance without having to do too much little tweaks and changes and stuff.
Yeah,
kind of like planning ahead and making things as easy to use as possible.
Well, and I don't know. It's by far the best looking show I've worked on. It came out looking amazing, and I remember meeting you in the kitchen a few mornings where we both I remember looking at you and we both just had like a tired nod because it was OT, it was crunch, and everyone was tired. And I
probably got a whole bunch of notes for you.
No. No, you guys, we all knew what the pressure that you guys were under, and so you guys did an amazing job. And I think for everyone on the show, I can only speak for myself, but man, it was so cool. I also needed a break afterwards, but it was really cool.
I think after that, I went out of the industry. I went teaching.
Yeah. I was gonna. So you went to Langara College after that, right?
Yeah, the CEA Langara. Our producer Tyler, he kind of like, hey, I'm going to the school. It's kind of like starting from scratch, and we'd like you to come help us like push forward on the animation side. I was like, man, that sounds fun. I've never really taught. But I like through supervising, you kind of are teaching like animators like a different kind of workflow, teaching a different way of looking at something. So I was like, this could be fun. I did that for a year, missed the VFX side of things a little bit too much. But what I got out of it was, teaching animation and getting people to really look at the foundations. Like I had to learn about the foundations of animation because like I knew about them, but I didn't know what they were.
You kind of heard about
it. I had to break it apart and be like, okay, you've got timing. And what are the other ones? Like
who cares? No, but sorry, go on.
So yeah, I did that, and then but by teaching, then I found how I describe notes or how I talk to an artist about progressing their shot became more about, instead of pointing out issues, it's more of working with the animator to find a problem, knowing what the rig is doing. You've got, all right, I can see kind of what you're fighting with. That's probably because the COG here is doing something weird, or your gimbal here might be strange, or your arms are in IK. Why are they in IK? You should put them in FK because they're not touching anything. So you want to have it, move with the body as it's going to feel.
Yeah.
So then it kind of gave me a different way of looking at how to supervise and help animators kind of get through a shot without that stress, because you can get into a point where you feel a little bit locked by notes because you're basically being really kind of precious over all the little keyframes you've set, because you set them there on purpose, and you don't want to lose anything that you feel comfortable with. You're like, I got that there, it feels good, and then I got this note, but I don't want to change this too much. But if you work through the process of what's doing, like how to get the note done with explaining how the rig is working and you can start looking outside of your bubble and going like, oh yeah, if I do put that on a locator, then I can do this. It's not that scary anymore. I can not worry about changing my rotation orders. And I think that whole side was it was a good learning curve for me too. I learned a lot at school. which
being bad in school. No, I caught one of your webinars. What's it called? Melodies and Madness. It was a great title, by the way.
Thanks.
No, but it's cool, and I think I feel like I recognized that you come from a non-traditional background with not having been kind of like it hasn't been kind of beaten into you, the whole timing, spacing, key, and then it seems like it allowed you to kind of like dissect your own workflow, and then you kind of introduced this way of keying only translation and rotation, and you use separate, and you use the parallel of I may be paraphrasing, but like it's different instruments in an orchestra or different keys on a piano, or
like something like that. It's just like if all the keyframes are happening at the same time, which is like a pose, then it's just like you're hitting the music keyboard. You're like, bang! But if you let them all have their moment to shine, like you have to translate X happen, then translate Y, then translate Z, and rotate, and that's all separate. Also, you get this nice melody, like and then you get nice smooth movement out of it, and you don't get those hits that you just get in animation all the time, where the reason why you get a hit is because you have like maybe an object, like a torso and an arm might be set on the same frame, and then the next frame they have the same frame, and then of course they're all going to be fighting for that attention. They're like, this is my spot, and like, this is my spot. And then you get those hits and pops, and then you start, freeing stuff up and not being as precious over those keyframes and letting it flow. Then the animation gets a lot cleaner, and you might look like your timeline is a big mess, but there's less keyframes, and it's easier to amplify things and soften things down. And you're kind of animating more in a gestural sense, and that's kind of like how I like it, because when I go into a shot, I have an idea of what I want it to look like. I have a feeling for it. And then I just start throwing like the COG around. Just like it's like I'm grabbing an action figure and doing something like this. And then I start breaking things out from there, and I'm like, well, the chest is moving like this, so then obviously the shoulders are going to move. And then I go back to like my original take on trying to figure out animation. It's just like, I'm moving one thing that's attached to that, and that has to move, and that has to move, and that has to move. If this stops moving, well, these will still keep moving. So I was more just visualizing the physicality of what I was animating. So I'm thinking like poses and spacing and timing. But when they talk about appeal, I think that was the only principle which I was kind of like leaning on the most. Just like, well, does this look cool? Am I making something that's appealing? Because like the animation could just be like garbage, but if it feels kind of structural, it feels like it has appeal to it, then I'm on the right track. I think I do it more of like a feel. I feel the animation.
Do you feel like so you talked like I think it was before we started recording, we talked about Steamroller, where you are now, where they do a lot of toony stuff that where it's like maybe a bit more toony than what you've been doing before. Do you feel like you have to kind of like pay more attention to those the strong the strong poses, the silhouette, all those kind of classical animation principles now, or how does that feel?
I'm really excited to be on a show that has it. That's for sure. Well, that's the thing. Is like you have to look at why 2D animation became 2D animation. Why you do things on 2s and why you do things on like 3s, or hold frames and stuff. It's all based on how long it took people to draw. It's like, well, if you're going to draw 24 frames, that's going to take you forever. But hey, we can cheat and just expose the same frame twice, and it kind of still has that same feel. And in Japan with anime, they took it to the extreme. And I saw a really nice YouTube clip. This guy Jason, he's an animation director, going into the timing of anime on like animating force and how you hit an action pose and push beyond that, and then how to make things feel like they have impact. And it kind of resonated with me because I try to make my stuff feel heavy and weighty and have impact. And I've always loved anime. I grew up with Ninja Scrolls and Ghost in the Shell and stuff, so I always like that aesthetics. And when I get around to doing hand poses, I kind of get these nice like anime kind of stuff just because I love it. But yeah, definitely like when you are getting into it, like research the heck out of it. Like, why do we do twos?
Yeah.
You do it because you're trying to save. You're gonna try to conserve the effort. You want to try to get stuff out there. You don't want to just do it because it's like, hey, it's a style. I'm gonna do stuff on twos. You want to be smart with it, and I think there's a lot of room for that medium to move, especially with like Spider-Verse. If you go through frame by frame, they put the characters like in screen space and then move that on twos to give it a feel, and the background's moving on ones, and like even if you go frame by frame, you can see the characters slipping on the ground just because they are on twos on screen space, but the background's moving on ones or on separate twos. Yeah. And when you watch it, it just feels smooth. So there's reasons behind it, and it's all a learning process. And at the end of the day, it's just like telling a story.
Yeah.
And kind of getting emotion across. So yeah. I'm excited to be on a project like that, and try something else, different kind of style.
Yeah, it's. I think it seems like you're like just driven at whatever captures you. Like, what do you have something right now that's like what really your focus is on now? Something especially?
Not really. I am really excited about like VR and VR content and VR animation, and we got that software Quill. We can do VR.
Yeah.
I kind of delved into that about 2 years ago, and had Facebook remind me like, "Hey, you did this thing 2 years ago with these things from Nazca, those weird ums. Belly of the Wind." These giant slug things with like red eyes, and they go crashing through the desert. And
shit!
Mouth fingers. And I did this in VR, and I had a blast. And there's a whole new medium of storytelling in there because you're immersed in your drawings. Basically, you can look around and place audio virtually, and you're like, "Well, there's a sounder back there," and you can see there's a creature drawn and animated.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely need more time to like just experiment with that and learn some Unreal Engine because real-time production is the future. It's like, hey, look, it's the rendered thing already, and it looks amazing.
Seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to learn Unreal on the side, and there's all these cool technologies coming up that kind of speed up the animation process. So yeah, just try to keep ahead of the game. If something new comes out, just grab it and try it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like my whole thing, because I would start with the 3D software from like back when I was a kid, and I just want to try everything. I'm just like, I need to see what this is, and even inside of Maya, like now just focusing more on the animation side, I'm still interested in everything in Maya that moves something. It's like particles move, dynamics move. How can I use that to move my characters potentially? So like just trying to connect the dots, because like if you're an animator inside of Maya, like I strongly suggest learning as much as you can inside of Maya that makes things move, because you never know when you might be able to like pull that into a scene you might be working on.
Oh yeah. I learned about simulation way too late. It's crazy how much time you can save by just
tail simulation. Final done.
I also it was I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but I saw you endorsing this Ragdoll on LinkedIn. That looks super cool.
Yeah, so much fun. I want to spend more time on that. It's crazy fun.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It kind of works the way I've always imagined animation to be, where you're basically defining what the structure of the character is, and then the physics kind of puts it there and between your motions. So you can set an inertia in a direction, and then the dynamics kind of carries that on. It is super fun.
That's awesome.
I can't believe it. Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, this can't be real. This is exactly how I imagine animation to be at some point, and now it's here. I tried it. There's a sequence I blocked out. I'm sure I'm currently working on. And I thought, let's just try this. I put this on the creature, and I have a rig driving the dynamic rig, and I blocked it out super roughly, but I could make the ground collidable, and I can make it self-collidable. And the environment basically did all the footfalls for free. The toes would come down and splay I'm just
Oh.
animating the control literally going through the ground, and just like I'm being super messy in my blocking. And
Yeah.
I blocked out like a minute of just cool stuff in like a day or two. And I was like,
Fuck.
this looks nice. And yeah, it's like definitely keep an eye on it. It's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'll look into it because just, we there's some stuff at work that where it could be really interesting too. So yeah, that's awesome. Um,
Check it
I
out.
yeah, I just looked at the clock now and it's been an hour. I think.
Already?
So, yeah. Um, I yeah, man. Well, I don't want to keep you longer, but thank you so much for doing this.
Hey,
It's,
no worries, man. Anytime. And yeah, what you're doing with this flamethrower is pretty cool. I'm down to like come in and check out some stuff further down the way.
I will definitely I'll definitely ask you to do that. It will be awesome. And yeah, I'll we'll catch that beer soon for sure.
Dude, yes. Yeah.
Dude, I have this idea. We should do it in one of the breweries at some point. That would be so cool to have like a round table thing. But
yeah, do we get one of those like 360 cameras? We get a whole bunch of us and just
yeah, that's the challenge. It's pretty easy with Zoom because everyone just but one day.
get like a mic or something.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this again. And yeah, it was so great catching up.
Likewise, dude.
Okay.
Happy Friday.